should cite the range of the speed that you were going or you were allegedly going. And then most importantly, towards the bottom of the ticket or towards the bottom of the complaint on the 8.5 by 11 complaints, there's a date that says date to appear. And on the summonses, it says court appearance required, and it gives you a date, and there's a box that's either checked, I'm sorry, it says date to appear, I should say, and then it gives you a court date, and then there's a box that says court appearance required, which may or may not be checked. For violations that don't involve serious consequence financially or could involve license suspension or jail, okay? If they involve those, they're more serious offenses. If they're basic charges, like a moving violation, like a speeding ticket, the box court appearance required should not be checked. If it is checked, then you've got to go to court. But what that date means, that date to appear, is that's what's called your first appearance. That's the date on which you either have to go to the court, or if the box is not checked, you have to call the court and either plead guilty before then if you're going to, or you have to tell the court you're going to enter a not guilty plea, and then they'll set the case down for a trial.
You are required to go to court.
Yes.
What happens then?
Then what happens is, well, if there's a no court appearance required checked, if there's no box checked, then your obligation is to just call the court administrator before that date and say to him or her, I'm going to plead not guilty, and she'll give you a trial date. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a trial on that date. It just means that's the date that they're going to have the file ready, that the prosecutor is going to be there, that he's going to have your file and anything that makes up the case against you, police report, officer's notes, any of those things, and will be able to speak knowledgeably about your case. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much the way it breaks down, no court appearance required. If court appearance required is checked, doesn't matter what the charge is, you have to go. So you have to go to court. And the purpose of that is that they want on those charges, which are charges that are more serious because they carry more serious consequences. Again, either jail, loss of license, significant fine, these kinds of things. Then they want you to come to court for what's called your first appearance. And that's where the judge will take your plea. He'll start first by explaining the charges against you. Sometimes there's more than one. Very often there's more than one. What the consequence of the charges are, and the fines, the penalties, whether you can lose your license, whether you can go to jail, and then he'll take your plea. Most people, usually it's not guilty at that time, and then he'll find out about what you're going to do in terms of an attorney and what your status is, with an attorney. So if you have to go to your first appearance, you have to go, first thing, you have to attend. Kind of a side note for people, because municipal courts sometimes are informal, and even though it's not as formal as the Superior Court, it is still a court. There's a judge, and the proceedings are being recorded. There's a prosecutor there who's prosecuting the case against you, and more, there are potentially very serious consequences that you can get in municipal court without it ever going up to any higher level court. You should treat it as a court. You should dress appropriately. You should be serious. You should not be loud or talk or have just all the respect that you would have for any other court in any other courtroom. Sometimes you don't see that, but very often you have judges who run a tight ship and don't allow anyone to treat it like any different kind of court.
I've been in courts, in municipal courts, where you couldn't have your arm on the bench, there's no gum chewing, gentlemen are asked to remove caps if they have them. So you think it's good advice to dress professionally?
Yes.
Be there early, and not talk to anybody if you have an attorney or if you plan on discussing your case so that others can hear it.
Absolutely.
Is that good advice?
Yeah, absolutely. Because first impressions mean everything, no matter whether you're in court, and the judge is going to be hearing your case at some point, and the prosecutor is going to be getting some kind of assessment of the case, and I suppose to some degree, you say they're people too, and they're going to make some kind of judgment of you. So if you come in and your pants are hanging down around your waist, or you've got a Live Fast and Die Young T-shirt on or something, you may not have them too happy about reducing your speeding ticket or believing you if you say that you weren't speeding and you wanted to.
Is that your weekend attire, the Live Fast, Die Young?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
The earrings go in and everything. So there's one other little side point, and people could run into it. you can actually be charged with the more serious charges, which would be indictable offenses. Those are offenses that are going to go up to the Superior Court, to the regular criminal court, potentially go to a grand jury who may return an indictment on the charges. Again, using the TV analogy, felonies and misdemeanors, those are felonies. You can get those charges, but actually have to start in municipal court with them. So you'll get the charges, it'll say first appearance required in blank township municipal court, and you go there and the judge tells you this is your first appearance, same thing, reads the charges, the whole process, actually takes your plea, but the next thing that he or she will be telling you is, okay, I'm sending this file up to the Superior Court because this is the most common example, a third-degree offense for drug possession. It would be anything beyond 50 grams or less of marijuana, like cocaine or heroin or something. It's going right up to the county, and the judge is going to send the case up, and it's going to be handled at the county level. So then you won't be in the municipal court anymore at that point. So sometimes people just start their cases there for the indictable or felony offenses.
I have my summons, I went to court, my first appearance, and the judge says, as you explained, I have the right to get an attorney.
Yes.
Or I could come back on my own.
Yes.
How do I decide whether I need an attorney?
Well, there's a couple issues on that. The first thing is the judge, depending on the charge, the judge will ask you whether you're going to get an attorney or not. If it's something serious like a DWI, they'll typically gently suggest that you do, meaning that most people with the serious charges should be represented. Things with speeding tickets and things of those nature, sometimes people choose to represent themselves. But very often the judge will give you a deadline to get an attorney. So it happens in a lot of courts with DWIs. They give you like 7 days if you don't make the decision that night. And there's an issue with getting an attorney with payment also, meaning that if the person who comes into court meets the state standards for indigency status, financial indigency, then they are entitled to a public defender. So that's another thing we should mention, is that there are public defender services available in the municipal court system. Meaning
that if you're indigent and you don't have money for an attorney, you still can have an attorney?
Yes. Yeah, but it's a strict standard. It's a very low income, and it's based upon the number of members in your household. And it's essentially the federal poverty standards in terms of indigency. So that's one thing that could happen also at your first appearance. I should mention that you won't be going to a first appearance in most courts if you hire an attorney ahead of time, meaning that procedures can vary among courts, but if you've already retained a lawyer, if you come see me or come see somebody else, you do a consultation and you decide that I need a lawyer, this charge is serious, or I have too many points, or I don't want to get any points if I can, or I disagree with the charges, then you hire a lawyer, and the lawyer can actually make your first appearance for you in most circumstances. Again, some courts